How many of you would say that you watch American football, and I'm not meaning once a year for the Super Bowl? And how many of you have ever watched a rugby game? That's the result I was expecting. I usually only watch football a couple times a year, around this time of year actually, and I've always wondered what everyone finds so exciting about it. Rugby is so much more action-packed. One of my goals as a women's rugby player is to bring more awareness to the sport and get people to start watching and playing, which is pretty difficult. And two of the most asked questions I get when someone finds out that I'm a rugger is, number one, you play rugby? And number two, is that like football? I have always hated that football has been compared to rugby because there are few similarities, even though rugby is considered the father of American football. And I have 4 reasons to convince you all to start watching rugby. Number 1, rugby players don't wear helmets or extravagant padding. Number 2, the game doesn't last all day. Number 3, rugby players are multi-skilled. And number 4, rugby is both amateur and international. Rugby players don't wear paddings and helmets. And this is not simply a question of toughness and courage, but one of safety and aesthetics as well. Though rugby, like football, is increasingly conscious of the dangers that can be caused by repeated concussions, the lack of helmets and paddings that is a feature of football actually aids in player safety. The lack of helmets means players aren't convinced that they cannot get hurt, so there's less injuries, which is really important when you're expected to play a full game of rugby and you have limited substitutions. Another thing about football is that it lasts all day. Rugby is 80 minutes and it's typically over in less than 2 hours. A football game lasts 60 minutes and can sometimes take up to 3.5 hours to finish. Rugby is played at a fast pace with few stoppages and frequent possession changes. Football, to me, seems like a 3-hour commercial break, during which, for a few seconds at a time, some sport is permitted. And the difference with rugby is you're exerting maximum energy during those 80 minutes. You don't have a break, so you have to rely on your instincts and thinking on the fly instead of executing a perfect strategic play. American football is a game for specialists. Most players on the gridiron squad only have one job. Few players are expected to play both on offense and defense. In rugby, we have to do it all. Rugby players are expected to know how to run, pass, tackle, ruck the ball, and kick the ball. And each position in rugby has a degree of specialization, but you're expected to all come together and push towards that collective effort of winning a game. Rugby is the epitome of teamwork in motion. Even if one player has an off day, it can really affect the entire outcome of the game. Great football players are known for their singular ability to throw an amazing pass, make a hard hit, or score a field goal under pressure. Rugby players are expected to do this at all times, at any moment in a game. Rugby is also a game to be played, not just watched. Few people actually continue playing football once they leave high school. Rugby, however, is played across all age groups. There's children's leagues, adult leagues, and even old boys and old girls leagues across the globe. The widespread love of rugby helps to create a united respect amongst nations. While football has largely remained an American pastime, rugby is international. There are few sports, if any, that can afford a small island like Fiji to have a moment in the global limelight. Rugby is how these small nations define themselves, how they make their mark in their small corner in the world. You could either be a New Zealand powerhouse team or a budding American squad trying to make a stand in this sport, but the widespread love of rugby across all ruggers on the nations helps to create respect and camaraderie for each other. And Rugby has been a major part of my life since I was 15 years old. And I'm not saying football is awful and you should stop watching it and only watch rugby from now on, but I just want people to realize that even just watching the sport can have a huge impact on your life. It's the love of the game that we play this and for the pride of our club.